Okay. 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 So, I just played through the Metal Gear series. Most of it. I just didn't play the first two Metal Gear games and the PSP exclusive ones. But I'm getting on that. And but that's not really the problem why I'm confused with a few things. I'm not sure which boss died at the end of MGS4, or if he did die, because there were two bosses, and I think they teamed up in Metal Gear 1, but of course it wouldn't tell you that in Metal Gear 1, because it was like 30 years later that they decided there were two bosses. Also, is Solid Snake and Liquid Snake clones? Is the whole dominant recessive thing that's not actually a thing in real science, is that like a real thing in the game science? Or is it like just a lie that they were told and they're not actually twins or clones? Because that one time in the plane in 4, they said, you're not exactly a clone of Big Boss. And since the surrogate mother was Eva, who was actually, with Big Boss, is it just that they aren't actually clones and they're just his kids? Though it is a few years later. Like after they were together. But it seems like a very weird coincidence that would be their mother. And I know there are a lot of weird coincidences in the series, but that seems like the sort of thing which would be a weird coincidence because it's not a coincidence, because it's intentional, because everything's planned out, especially when it comes to the Patriots. Everything's planned out, It was all just a ruse to test Raiden. And, there are just I'm just not sure about these things. If anyone knows, tell me down in the comments. I'm confused. I'm just a little bit confused. And the black guy at the beginning of 1 was also the guy in 3. But why do they sound completely different? I know that he would sound different at aging, though he's only aged like 10 years as far as his voice goes, pretty much. And I'm confused about that. Sigint being the DARPA chief, but he wasn't actually the DARPA chief, so was it Decoy Octopus who had the voice like that? Or maybe like he screwed up cloning the DARPA chief, so he didn't seem like Sigint? Because, and I know they don't usually retcon things, not exactly. They just sort of add things without necessarily breaking the previous rules, but they broke the rules with the DARPA chief because they made him older in 1 because he was in 3. And I'm a bit confused about that. And exactly how much magic is there in Metal Gear? Because it seems like a lot of it's technology, like, as far as, I think it was in the first 2 maybe there might have been nanomachines, but like I said, I didn't play them. But I think in Metal Gear Solid they introduced nanomachines, and those are, the magic science thing, the mechanical thing, like in Infinity War, he can just turn his suit into anything. But there's also, like, you can't just bring Psycho Mantis back from the dead and have a vision of him. And even so, the way you defeated him in 4 was by advancing your hardware. So it was interesting in 1. You didn't really have to think about it. It was just like, maybe he can go transdimensionally, like, thinking, sort of. Because he was pretty clearly maybe magic in that one. Nanomachines. Because he's magic, but everybody else was magic because of nanomachines, but they weren't all very magic, and like the Metal Gears, like not about if there's like those are technology. There's no magic, I don't think, in any of them, though the geckos are like biologically created, which is a whole nother thing. But the Metal Gears don't really keep escalating throughout it. They do throughout like 1, 2, and 4. And 3 was good because it was just like a basic tank. That'd make sense for like back in the 60s. But then there was also Peace Walker, which was probably the most advanced Metal Gear in the series until maybe Metal Gear Rising. I guess it's smaller than Arsenal Gear, but technologically it's way more advanced. And of course there were the Metal Gears. Like, I hadn't even thought about this until I played a little bit of Metal Gear after playing the rest of the entire series, but there are Metal Gears in Metal Gear 1 and 2, and so you have to keep an escalation. I thought there was going to be like a break-off between Huey and Hal. Like, Hal has to loses like Huey's research. He doesn't get all of it, so he has to like restart it in Metal Gear Solid, which makes sense, but I'm not sure about that, especially since there were Metal Gears in Metal Gear, which look completely different from Metal Gears in Metal Gear Solid. And it's kind of confusing, I'm going to admit. I don't understand it. There are a lot of Metal Gears. Sahelanthropus, like, that had laser swords probably 10 to 20 years before Metal Gear Solid. So, I don't know.